Welcome back to Kamal Kunj Home Academy, Encounter with Physics. In this session, we will discuss about buoyant force and why some objects float or sink in a liquid, and finally the Archimedes Principle. Concept of buoyant force. Why objects float or sink in a liquid and Archimedes Principle. When an object is dipped into a fluid, two types of forces act on it. Gravitational force, that is due to force of attraction by the earth, and the other is the force exerted by the fluid in the upward direction. Now when an object is dipped into a fluid, the gravitational force due to attraction by the earth acts downward and the force exerted by the liquid or fluid acts upward. Now the net upward force exerted by the fluid is known as force of buoyancy or buoyant force. Now this is the concept of buoyant force, why objects float and some objects sink in a liquid. Now the reason is when the object is put into a liquid, two types of forces act on it: gravitational force acting downward and buoyant force acting upward. Now if the downward force acting on the object deep in a liquid is greater than the buoyant force. The object will sink into the liquid. The object will sink into the liquid. And if the downward force due to gravity is less than the buoyant force, the object will float on the liquid. Now, if the force due to gravity, if the downward force acting on the object due to gravity is less than the upward force due to buoyancy force exerted by the liquid, that is buoyant force. Then the object will float. Also, if the density of the object is more than density of the liquid, it will sink, and if the density of the object is less than that of the liquid, it will float. For example, iron nail, when put in water, if the density of object is greater than density of liquid, this implies that the object will sink. For example, when iron nail put on the surface of water, on the surface of water, it sinks because density of iron is more than density of water. Now, if the density of object is less than that of liquid, if the density of object is less than that of liquid, then object will float. For example, cork, when put on the surface of water, it floats because density of cork is less than that of water. Now, the Archimedes Principle is based on the phenomenon of buoyancy. Archimedes Principle is based on the phenomenon of buoyant force, buoyancy. According to Archimedes Principle, according to Archimedes Principle, if a body is dipped into a fluid, partially or fully, upward force is exerted by the fluid. And this force is equal to the weight of the fluid. Displaced. When a body is dipped into a fluid, partially or fully, upward force exerted by the fluid is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object. In another way, we can say that when an object is, our body is dipped partially or fully in a fluid, there is an apparent loss in weight of the body, and this loss in weight is equal to weight of the fluid displaced by the object. Now, Archimedes Principle is very useful. There are wide applications. For example, this principle is used for designing ships and submarines, lactometer and hydrometers, and also this principle is used for determination of bulk density and apparent porosity of solids. Archimedes Principle is used for designing ships and submarines, lactometers and hygrometer. And for determination of bulk density and apparent porosity of solid objects. Now we will stop here and continue further in the next session. Till then, goodbye and thanks for watching.